Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of It Ain't Weak to Speak. My name is Sam Webb, and this show is dedicated to ending the stigma around mental health through community, connection, and the hard-hitting truth. I'll be speaking with guests from all over the world about life to inspire and to educate people to speak up so that we can save more lives. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Welcome, Luke Shuey, mate. Thank you very much for coming on the show with us today. I'm very grateful to steal you away from your dad life and your professional football life. Mate, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me. It's good to speak to you again.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I saw you last down at Lake Munga, I think it was, down in Perth.
Yeah, I reckon that was nearly 12 months ago now. The fun run.
Mate, I think I didn't come to that one. I think it was 2 years ago maybe the last time I saw you.
Oh, you didn't come to the last one?
Nah.
Oh, righto. Yeah, that was a while ago then, wasn't it? Bit changed for you, living the life in LA.
Mate, come on. I'm doing my best, but what time is it over there in Perth right now?
I've got 9:01 on Saturday morning.
All right. And what's been happening already in the morning for you, mate? What's been happening?
So we've got our last preseason game, the Savo, so a bit of a practice match. So my wife let me sleep in this morning, so I was up at 7:30.
Nice.
Little fella was up at 5:30, so she got up with him, and then just been cruising around, man. Kicked her out of the house so I could do this. And yeah, no, not a lot, mate. Just cruising.
Yeah, nice, man. Nice.
I was actually thinking before I should have timed this better. I could have done this tonight for my time, morning for you, and I could have actually been on the beers while we did this.
That would have been elite.
Anyway,
mate, next time we'll have to do a round two on this, mate. See how I go on here first.
Yeah, if the ratings are good, we'll come back for a second show, and
we will, mate. We will
get on the beers together.
Yes, mate. Sounds like a plan. Well, mate, big news for you this year. You're a captain, are you?
I am, mate. Yeah, no, very, very fortunate. So, Shannon Hearn, who's been captain for 5 years, done a wonderful job. Decided to step away from the role a couple of months ago, and yeah, no, very privileged, mate, to step into the position and be able to take over for this season. So, haven't had to do a whole lot just yet, but yeah, we're on the eve of the season kicking off. So, sure, I've got a bit on my plate this year, but should be a bit of fun, mate. Very fortunate.
Yeah, definitely. Can I ask as well, mate, I think because a lot of listeners would love to know about the transition, because you've been a vice captain for a few years, haven't you?
I have,
beforehand. Yeah. So as far as stepping into a captaincy role, I mean, in AFL, what's that transition like coming from vice captain to running the duties of now just being a sole captain of the team? Like, what sort of pressures does that bring, and what sort of responsibilities does that bring for you?
Well, I guess as vice captain, probably 2 or 3 years ago, I made my sole intention as vice captain to make Bunga's role, who was captain. I tried to make his role as easy as I could for him. So if there was any things around the club that a senior guy or a leader needed to take care of, I tried to make sure that I'd put my hand up to do it to save him the trouble and one less thing that he has to worry about, because there's a lot of mandatory things that you have to do as captain. So he already had a lot on his plate. So, my sole focus as vice captain was try and make his job as easy as possible. And I really enjoyed that. And probably last year, he was doing a great job, and I was vice captain. I was 29, and I'll probably come around to the fact that I'll never captain the club. He's going to do it till he's ready to retire, and by that stage, in probably 2 or 3 years' time, there's someone under us, a bit younger, that's ready to take the reins. And but anyway, yeah, out of nowhere, he was ready to hand the job over, and he's still going to play. He's still playing really good footy, and he'll continue to play. But I guess he just wanted to step away from the role. So there's a few things throughout the year that captains of the club, each club, have to do. But you probably got a little bit more to do behind the scenes. You probably get consulted on all the issues on and off field, and I guess just making more of an effort and taking a bit more responsibility in getting to know how guys are going away from footy, what guys are trying to work on, where they need to improve, and that sort of thing, and keeping an eye on that and helping them do it, I guess.
Yeah, wow. So there is a there is a lot of responsibilities, obviously, outside of just preparing yourself, obviously, for your own game, getting into your training and ensuring that you're
Yeah,
fit, and then
yeah,
obviously also worrying and making sure that your team is in the best possible state of mind too, as well as performance going into games as well.
yeah. I think two things I'm lucky with is one that I'm 30 in June, so there's a lot of guys who get given captaincy at a really young age, and I guess I've seen guys get given captaincy at 22, 23, and it worked out really well for some guys. Like you look at Joel Selwood from Geelong, I think he took over captaincy at 22 or 23 and has been one of the best to ever do it. But then there's guys that have done it and it's just killed their career. They haven't been able to cope with the responsibility. And at that age, I guess you're still trying to find your way in the footy world and figure out how to play well every week. And so for me to take over at 30, all the stuff that, I know what I need to do to play well every week, so I don't need to worry about that stuff too much. I still need to prepare and train well and make sure I'm always trying to improve. But I guess at 30, that stuff sort of happens naturally for you. So I do have the luxury of leaning on a few other guys around the footy club as well. The other thing I'm really lucky with is we've got some really good leaders. Our two vice captains this year, Josh Kennedy, Jeremy McGovern, both really good leaders, and then guys under them. So I've got plenty of guys to lean on and plenty of support around me in the playing group that if I need to handball, pardon the pun, if I need to handball a few issues to someone else to take care of, then I guess I've got the luxury of doing that.
So I think, and that sort of reiterates a lot of what we're trying to achieve with the show. It ain't weak to speak. It's not just about speaking up about challenges and, mental health challenges, so to speak. I think a lot of the mantra around living and what this show is based on is speaking up about anything, having the confidence to reach out and ask someone for support or reach out and ask someone for help if you need a little bit of advice and things like that.
Man, I was actually thinking about the motto this morning, and I was thinking, how lucky am I to work in an environment where there's 43 other teammates. I've got probably 10 coaches, and then like so much staff, both footy related and behind the scenes, that I see every day. So I've got no option but to continually be in communication with other people. You know what I mean? So every day you're talking about how you're feeling, how your footy's going. You're doing that with multiple people, and no one's immune to mental battles, but the environment I'm in certainly helps me stay away from that sort of stuff, I think.
Yeah, and that's really important. And is that, do you see that now as being a captain something that you definitely want to continue for the club in terms of making sure it's a very open-minded everyone communicates with one another extremely well. So it feels like a safe environment where even if you've got new people coming to the club, it's almost like these guys feel like they're part of the team really quickly.
Yeah, 100%. And we've been lucky enough, I suppose, for 5 or 6 years now where we've had a playing group that we've been really tight. We've got a really good relationship with all our coaches. I think some footy clubs, maybe the playing group and the coaching group are a bit divided. The players play, the coaches coach, and there's not much more interaction than that. Whereas I think we're really fortunate that we all really get along that well, that, every day you're actually talking to someone about how things are in your life, and people are taking genuine interest. It's not forced, because when it's forced. If you're talking to someone and they're just asking you questions for the sake of it, you know what's going on. So we've got a group that really cares about each other, which is good. And I think there's something like 17 kids at the footy club now. Like there's 13 or 14 dads. So there's so many guys with so much in common that you can't help but be continually in communication with other people, which is in our lifestyle as well. Like that, we're lucky in that regard. But also, I think footballers and people in the public eye are also really vulnerable to depression and mental battles and things like that. We've seen plenty of footballers come out over the years and be brave enough to speak up about the things that they're going through. And some of them have been the best players in the competition at times. So that's really scary. But, I see myself as really fortunate that there's so many people that I get to talk to every day and just do what I love with so many of my mates.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. It makes your life a lot happier, and a lot more fulfilled that way, I guess, and a lot more purpose driven as well. But as a captain, I know it's very new, but I mean, you've been a vice captain for a number of years before this. Do you feel that as a captain, you'll be like almost like the person people do come to if they are struggling, or if they have something personal maybe away from the game, or is it more of that they might have their own designated coaches or health staff that might take an interest in that?
Yeah, I think you're always open to it. Like I'm obviously I'm there for anyone. If anyone needs a chat, not just because I'm captain, but I care about the guys I play footy with. So I'm there if anyone needs it. But as you said, everyone's got their own safety net that they can go to, and I'm sure I'm not the one for plenty of blokes. I'm sure there's other people that guys feel a lot more comfortable with. But we try to make sure as a footy club that there is someone for everyone if they need to. And we were one of the first clubs in the competition to actually source out a professional psychologist and psychiatrist to actually work with us a few days a week. So I've got no doubt that's making a difference. But we'd like to think there's at least one person for anyone at the footy club if someone needs to chat about anything, really.
So important, isn't it? So important.
Oh, mate, 100%, yeah.
And I want to ask you this as well. I mean, you were the recipient of the Norm Smith Medal after a grand final win in 2018 against, was it Collingwood?
Collingwood, yeah.
So, but let's rewind a few years. Weren't you in a losing grand final in 2015 or 16?
Yeah, we lost one in 2015.
What was that like, mate? We'll talk about the highs in a minute from the grand final, but what's it like going into a grand final? I've got so many questions around the actual day in itself in terms of rituals. Yeah. How do you manage your own stresses, your own anxieties, the pressure of life?
I suppose
feel like losing.
I suppose in 2015, I was still reasonably young. So from a personal point of view, I was really still pretty young in terms of football. I was 24 or 25, and it was so disappointing to lose. Like, you get so close, and you can't help but think in the lead up that week, even that day pre-game, you think, geez, in 4 or 5 hours, I could be a premiership player. And for football players, that's everything we've dreamed of since we could kick a footy as a kid. Like, there's so many kids that want to play AFL football, but I don't think anyone's really got the balls to say, I want to play AFL football and win a premiership until they get to the AFL. Like, as a kid, in my living room, I won 25 premierships, man. I used to kick my little Mathis footy around and pretend to win a grand final. And, I watched teams growing up, and I lived and breathed footy, man. It was everything to me. So watching Brisbane win in 01, 2 and 3, and then West Coast win in 06, you just see all your idols doing what really the only reason they turn up to work every day. So you get so close to that and you lose, and it was so disappointing. But part of me I think I was able to move on pretty quick because I was so optimistic that I'd get another chance. I don't know whether that was just good confidence, whether I was a bit naive, or whether it was the right attitude, but I was just so optimistic that I wouldn't finish my career without winning one. And now that I've won one, I'm optimistic I'm going to win another one. But at the time, man, I was like, you know what, that really sucks. But I'm going to win one at some stage, so let's get to work. And 3 years later, lucky enough to play in a winning one, and all that stuff I talked about growing up, winning it in your lounge room as a kid, watching people do it. It was so much better than all of that. Like, it was unbelievable.
Goosebumps on my arms, man.
Yeah, man, it gives me goosebumps talking about it. It's
well, you didn't only just win it, mate. You had you got the Norm Smith medal, mate.
Yeah, I know.
Final, you got the best player on the field on the day.
I did.
Talk to me about that, mate.
Well, I'd give that up for another premiership, like in a heartbeat, as anyone would. But I don't know, man. I'm really honoured to win it. There's been some unbelievable names to win it before me. I'm a little bit embarrassed to be alongside him in that category, to be honest. But
mate, you're a very humble man. Even since I met you, I mean, you're probably one of the most humblest blokes I've ever met.
Yeah. Oh, look, it is cool, man. It's cool. And I guess when I finish my career, to be able to look back and be a premiership player, one, but have won the Norm Smith. It's cool. But it that obviously wasn't the be all and end all. But yeah, huge thrill.
What's
And
your
I
rituals?
look at like, my rituals. We've
Like
done a
a
lot of
game
work
day
over the
morning,
years.
like game day morning, grand final day. What do you do? Like what can you just run me through some of the morning and how that makeup works for you?
Yeah, we've done a lot of stuff on mindfulness over the years, and being able to the morning of a grand final, being able to take all the nerves out of it. Obviously, it's going to hit you at some stage, and you've got to embrace it. But you don't want to spend the whole morning in your hotel room throwing up from nerves and sitting there chewing all your fingernails off. We've done a lot of work on what you can do individually to step away from it all, and then when you get to the ground, you switch on and think about the game when you need to. But and I guess that comes with age as well. Like I was 28 in 2018 playing in the grand final, so I've been playing footy for 10 years, and it doesn't make grand final day a walk in the park. But having been there in 2015 as well, you sort of knew what to expect. So I actually remember walking around with one of the other boys, Jack Redden. We were both up pretty early. I was probably up at 6 a.m, but we went for a walk at about 7:30 round to the hotel around the corner where his wife was staying with their daughter. And I just remember walking there with him, and I had a moment where I thought, it just feels so normal. We hardly even talked about the game, talked about how he slept, talked about what he's going to do with Izzy, his daughter, for the morning. And my wife and son weren't over in Melbourne, actually, because he was only 2 weeks old. So she was back in Perth with him, so she couldn't make it over, unfortunately. But so we were talking all things dad life, and it was just really normal. And I'd watched on for years. I'd watched on grand final day and seen guys play and win, and I just think, geez, they must be so nervous, and it must be so cool to win a Norm Smith. And then, I'm not being disrespectful to how cool it is, but like it just didn't even compare to actually winning the game. You know what I mean? But yeah, the day felt really normal. And now with a 18-month-old man, like my game day rituals, there is no ritual. It's whatever he wants to do. And I reckon I got up at 5 this morning to change a nappy and then went back to bed. I mean, before him, if I had been up before 8, I'd be fizzing out about, I've had enough sleep. I need to go back to bed for 45 minutes. Whereas now, like, anything goes, mate.
Yeah, right. So it's changed your whole life, obviously, and the way you do life. But I think I'm not a father right now by any means, but I'm sure it's
creeps up on you, mate.
Sorry?
It creeps up on you.
Yeah.
Just around the corner.
Yes. And
but it is good.
Yeah, it'd be an amazing feeling, and it's a different chapter of your life, I guess, from a personal side, but that impacts obviously your professional side too. And as you just said, it changes the way the rituals are done now.
It does, man. And people with the right mindset, like it does nothing but good things for your footy, exactly what I'm talking about. Like pre having Oliver, if I had been up early on a game day, I'd stress about that until the game. And now, like, you just anything goes. You just whole life revolves around them. And like you talk about reality checks. You come home from work, you might have played a stinker on the weekend. You come home shitty, angry at the world, wondering what you need to do to get better. And the minute you walk in the door, you just forget about footy because you got this little human hanging off you, wanting to play with you, and they just demand all your attention. And you realise footy is irrelevant in the bigger scheme of things. Like, as long as you got to, like, I walk in the door and I'm just so grateful that he's healthy, and I've got a beautiful wife who's healthy. And that's so cliche to say, man, because like everyone says that, but I'm sure you understand that's the most important thing in life is happiness and health. Yeah.
Definitely, man. Definitely. It really is. And it puts, like you just said perfectly, Luke, I mean, it puts things into perspective for you, doesn't it? It really does. And mate, on that note, I mean, you go to in certain games of your life, you probably have gone in underprepared. How do you manage feeling underprepared and maybe under stress and like, shit, I haven't done enough, or I don't know how I'm going to do this? And like, how does that make you feel? How do you manage that as a player and as a person?
Yeah, that's a cracking question, because every footballer in the competition would have a different preparation for every game. So, look, for me, my preparation starts the minute I finish a game, my prep for the next game starts. So if I get to a game and I get to my game the next week, my prep for that game has been 6 or 7 days in the making. So I find that I'm not really stressing out about a bad night's sleep the night before, or I might not have eaten as healthy as I could have on a Wednesday night when I went out for tea with my missus. I don't stress about that stuff because there's so much other stuff I've done in the 7 days that have held me in good stead, that the good outweighs the bad. And so I'm confident I go into a game where I'm in a position to perform. And I like to look at all the good stuff I've done throughout the week, maybe more so than I had a sore back on this day, or I was up early that day. I didn't sleep great on the Friday night. I think a whole week of prep is more important than just what happens on game day.
So you're saying, and for all of our listeners, I mean, for people who are maybe working towards a big project, a deadline, or something great in their career, a breakthrough, what you're saying is that it probably doesn't all come down to the one big thing that you do. It's all the little baby processes and systems that you've knocked off over the past 6 or 7 days in your example, or in your life, that's helped you feel prepared enough for that game day.
Yeah, mate. The games I've got to where I'm flustered and I feel as though I'm not in a position to play well. We're probably all in my earlier days where I probably didn't think about my prep throughout the week too much. Now I put such a big emphasis on what I need to do each day to get better and put myself in a position to perform that coming weekend, that when I get there, the work's done, and I can just go out and enjoy what I do, because there's so many people around the country that would kill to be in our position. So I can actually embrace that on game day and realise how lucky we are and just have fun, because, footy can get real serious at times, and a lot of people take it a bit too serious. But quite often I do this thing where I check in with 12-year-old Luke, where I think about if I could go back and talk to myself at 12 years old and tell myself what position I'm in now, just how stoked I'd be.
So everything's like a win from here on out.
100%. Still got to work hard, but
you still got to work hard. I'm sure the pressure's probably a little bit on more than having a vice captaincy role versus having a captaincy role. Is it a little bit more pressure, do you feel, or not at all?
I'm actually not feeling a lot of pressure, man, to be honest. Okay. I've filled in as captain on game day a couple of times over the last few years, where Bunga's been injured and I've had to fill in as captain for the day. And I found I'd overthink it. I'd go into the game and think, what can I do today that's just really inspirational for the team? And how can I be a really good captain? Where I was given captaincy 3 or 4 months ago now, and the whole novelty of it, with all due respect to the position, the novelty of it's worn off now. So now I'm just worried about what you actually need to worry about as a captain, and just going out and playing well. And we had our first cracky game last week, and I just didn't think about it through the game, to be honest, man. Like, I thought about all the usual things you think about, and that's, what are we doing well as a team? How do we improve? This isn't working for us. How do I play well? But I'm not feeling a lot of pressure, to be honest, which is good.
Well, that's good, mate. And so obviously, and everyone's very different. You obviously, you can handle it. You can, I guess, break it down. You're very well prepared. It sounds like preparation in your life is the key to success. Yeah,
I think most.
You think it comes down to that? Like, if we were to boil this down to a couple of things, what is something in your life that you feel has worked extremely well to get you to the place that you are at currently? And my next question after that would be, seeing amazing, talented players play alongside you, maybe in your earlier years, but haven't gone on to make the AFL or to be as good as they possibly could have or should have been. What has stopped them from getting to that place, do you feel?
Yeah, I think what stops a lot of guys is the commitment to doing whatever it takes. So, there's guys who have had so much talent over the years and might have played a little bit of AFL footy, but probably haven't achieved what they could have. And that might be due to a number of things. But I think that the one common denominator that I've seen is, just not willing to work their absolute backside off. And, for me, preparation's important. And I think gratitude's important as well. You've probably read The Resilience Project.
I've read.
Hugh
Yeah,
Van Collenberg. Yeah. So he talks about gratitude and how important that is. And
great man, Hugh. This is a shout out for Hugh.
he's a ripper. Yeah. I'd love to meet him one day.
Good man. He's a great man.
So I was on his stuff a few years ago, and we've been big on mindfulness at the footy club over the years. But, gratitude is the one thing I've really leaned towards, and finding times throughout your day, your week, to just realise how lucky we are. And I find that actually helps my footy because I don't put as much pressure on myself going to the footy club because I'm in a position where I just want to rock up and enjoy it. I work hard, and hopefully the rest takes care of itself. And then you get home and you're grateful for what you've got at home. And I've heard a lot of guys around the competition speak about the same thing as well.
Yeah, right. So it's definitely helped as a gratitude practice, so to speak. It's almost like a self-care strategy or a strategy to really put yourself in a good mindset.
Yeah, 100%. And Hugh's stories about the kid he stayed with overseas, who was living in a hut and had those shoes he'd cut the toe holes out of. He reckons he was the happiest bloke he's ever met. And so that's a great lesson for everyone. Is we always want more than what we've got. We're always looking at what our next big purchase is going to be, or where can we add on a second story on our house, and how do we make our house bigger, and all that sort of stuff. We're always looking at what we don't have instead of what we've got right in front of us.
Yeah, in front of it, right. And it's very important to have that. And unfortunately, Lukey, not everyone does have that foresight to see what they do have in front of them. They always do want to chase more and more and more, and enough's never really enough, and that's just.
Yeah, well, I was probably one of those people.
So was I, mate. So was I.
I guess you either go through things in life that make you realise how lucky you are, or you hear stories and you listen to guys like yourself or Hugh talk, and that's a wake-up call in itself. So, I guess a few years ago I was looking at what's next for me. How can I better this? What more can I have? Whereas now it's just, I think the older you get, if you've got the right attitude, life just gets simpler and simpler.
It's so important, isn't it?
100%.
And on that, I mean, certain, I guess, things happen in life, whether it's personal, whether it's, relational, whatever that looks like. For you, you lost your sister a few years ago.
Yeah, 2009. Lost my sister. I think I was 3 months into life in WA. So I'd moved here at the end of 2008, and then February 2009. My sister was killed. She was hit by a motorbike in a sort of traffic accident. And, maybe subconsciously that taught me gratitude in itself, and to appreciate simple things in life. I guess at 18, you don't really think about that stuff, do you? Like, you got no idea what all that's about. But maybe deep down that's shaped my attitude towards a lot of things in life.
And what, mate, I mean, if that was 3 months into your playing career, or 3 months into your move into Perth, what sort of impact, did your sister's life have on this life of yours? Like, I mean, it would have been very hard, man, going to a brand new place, because you're a Melbourne boy, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a Melbourne boy. Grew up in Melbourne. So mum and dad were still back there. What impact does it have? It's hard to say, because you can't now go back and know what life would have been like without that happening. But I don't think it shaped my life or what I did too much. Like, I obviously went back to Melbourne for a few months. I was actually injured at the time, so I wasn't training or anything. So I was able to go back to Melbourne for as long as I needed, spend time with family and friends, and then when I was ready to get back on the job, I jumped on a plane and came back to Perth. I think 6 or 7 weeks later. So spent a bit of time back in Melbourne with the family, and obviously you go through. You know what it's like. You go through grief and sadness and all that sort of stuff, and you do what you need to do. And it was sad, and it definitely changes some aspects of your life. But I guess I was fortunate to come out the other side and not battle any mental demons, so to speak, because I'm sure a lot of people can go two ways. They come out the other side and you're able to get on with life, or it can really hinder some people. And I'm so fortunate that that wasn't me. But at the same time, it was still, pretty tough to deal with.
And obviously the impact that would have had on your family too, like your mum and dad.
Yeah, obviously. Well, having a kid myself now, like I think back to what mum and dad went through, and like to lose your kid. I mean, that's just it'd be the worst thing ever. So, whole new appreciation for what mum and dad went through. I think until you have a kid yourself, your whole life. There's a few exceptions. You're probably an exception, but I think before you have a kid, your whole life is all about you. How do I set myself up for the long term? How do I find an income, a good job, surround myself with good friends? And then you have a kid of your own, and your whole life just becomes about them. You stop thinking about yourself so much. And I find myself comparing my life now to other people who've had kids and their positions. So, I think back to when my sister died, and I put myself in my mum and dad's shoes now that I've got a kid of my own, and it just, it breaks your heart. And what mum and dad would have had to go through. But I've got a great mum and dad. They split up in 2001, and but mum's moved over to Perth. I told you that the other day. She's moved over a few years ago, and dad's still in Melbourne. But I've grown up very loved by my parents, mate, which is good.
Yeah, well, that's amazing, and that certainly helps. Are they big avid AFL fans as well, I guess?
They are. Mum was always my biggest fan growing up, junior footy, and Dad was. I mean, my earliest memories are going down the local footy park after school on most days. It was only about a 2-minute walk with Dad, and we'd kick the footy until the sun goes down, and then we'd walk home again and have dinner. And they were the best memories. So Mum and Dad were great support for me growing up. I had a lot of travel involved. I played under 18 footy, which is the competition you get drafted from out of Victoria. I played for a team who were based about an hour away, so 2 times a week. Mum or Dad, or one of my best mates' dads who was in the team with me, would drive us out there. And now, being an adult myself and working full time, I appreciate just how hard that must have been on them. But Mum and Dad were great supports growing up, and continue to be so.
Yeah, that makes it so much easier. You don't realise all the work that they put in, especially when you're young, because you're almost like, this is about me, when really they're there to support you. And you're in a perfect example. I mean, you've only got an 18-month-old in Oliver, but you can see that there is a lot of work being a father or a mother, and there's a lot of work that goes into being a parent. Oh
yeah, mate, toughest job in the world. But at the same time, the most rewarding, and that's exactly what I was talking about before. Like, before you have kids, you probably just all you think about is yourself, really. If you've got a partner, a little bit of thought goes into them. But before kids, you're always thinking about how can I make my life as good as possible. And even at 18, you're classified as an adult, but I had no idea about anyone else's needs or worries at that age.
Yeah, makes it a little bit easier then, doesn't it? Less responsibility.
So much easier.
Wherever you're in your little man cave down
in the den.
In the den back at home in Perth, and I'm looking at a photo behind you, and is that Michael Jordan?
That's the famous wings shot, mate. MJ.
What a shot, mate! Can I? Who are your inspirations? Oh wow.
I guess for me, like my idols growing up were the guys who I could relate to, so footy players. But I'm a lover of all sports. So I love American sports, NFL, NBA. Love UFC. Never really got into soccer, but love my cricket. So I think being in the position I'm in, where I'm playing professional sport, I've got a great appreciation for guys who do it on an even bigger scale. The bigger sports around the world, guys who dominate those competitions, like, they are unbelievable athletes.
Yeah, mate, I mean, yeah, it's easy to say that, but you're in a very good position with what you're doing, and I'm sure they'd say the same thing about the work that you guys do in AFL, And
it's funny hearing Americans talk about our game, and I don't know if you've spoken to anyone about it over there. You're from Sydney. You're more of a rugby man.
Yeah, I'm from Sydney, mate. Definitely a little bit more of the rugby,
but
mate.
hearing the Americans talk about AFL, they can't believe that we don't play with helmets and pads on, and like, yeah,
I hear
and
it all the
but then
time, mate.
Yeah, but then I watch NFL, and like, even though they're wearing protection, they crack in, man. Like,
They do.
and it's sad. Like the concussion issues that a lot of those guys deal with post career is out of control. But yeah, it's funny when you hear Americans talk about our game. They think we're the toughest blokes going around, but we're not.
Mate, it's a tough one because they always say that over here. You guys don't use pads, man. You don't use pads, and I'm like, just relax. You guys are pretty gnarly yourself.
Now, I've had a few trips to America, and you end up getting into conversations about what you do back home, and you try and explain AFL to them, and 99% of them have no idea that is that rugby? Is that soccer?
Yeah, no idea.
But,
mate, what sport would you have played if you didn't play AFL?
I don't know if I would have made a professional living out of any other sport. I think Test cricket would be cool to do. Like, you get to travel the world. The hardest thing with Test cricket is you'd miss a lot of family time. So that's like, I go away every second week. Being from Perth, we travel every second week to play away, and we're only away for 2 nights. But I hate it. I miss my family so much. By that second night, the first night's good. You get a good sleep, bit of your own time, and then by the second night, you just you're really missing the family. But Test cricket would have been cool, man. Like, especially back in the era of Gilly, Langer, Ponting. I say the era. It was only about 8 or 9 years
Shane
ago.
Warne was playing.
The King, yeah, man, they would have had some good times, some good trips. So
another sport.
They just never lost.
Yeah, but mate, I don't know anything about cricket.
Oh, really? I presume you.
Mate, I'm not a cricket fan whatsoever. So everyone listening, please don't buy me anything cricket related for a gift. A gift. But no, mate, cricket's something that I actually could almost say I despise, but it's fine. It's fine.
That's fair enough. Each to their own, mate.
Yeah, each to their own, man. Each to their own. How do you manage being on the road all the time? You know, I mean, it's only 2 days away, but it's still 2 days out of your routine. Does that muck up your routine as much as
it becomes part of your routine, man. So, we do the most kilometres out of any team.
Horrible too.
Shocking.
That flight, mate. That flight from Perth to Melbourne or Sydney, I'd prefer to fly from Sydney to LA.
Man, coming the other way, so East Coast to West Coast is so much worse. You add on an extra 45 minutes or an hour, and you try doing that after a loss or you've played a stinker. It's a shocking flight, man. You spend the whole 4 hours thinking about the loss and how poor you played. And I've had a few of them, trust me. But the travel becomes part of your routine, man. You just get used to it, and you get to a stage where you actually enjoy getting away with the boys. And as I said before, you get your own time for a little bit, and then
good to sort of recharge, get that bit of your own time, sort of. And by the time you're over it, you're back home anyway, aren't you?
Yeah. So 2 nights is enough. But no, we embrace it, man. It can be what you make it. You know, it can be a drag if you're shook about the travel and you don't want to be there, but we've got a really good group of lads that we're playing with at our club, and most of our trips are pretty fun.
Can I ask, before I've got another pretty good question I want to ask you, but do they fly your business when you're flying all the time, or is it just in economy?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a criteria for business.
I want to hear.
Well,
I've always wanted to know.
I think Captain always gets it. So I'm so height. So I think the tallest guys they generally give business seats to.
Wow.
And age. So it's a combination of height and age. So I don't know if you know Josh Kennedy, our full forward.
No, I don't know. I don't know him personally, but I do know of him, of his name from the limited time I know. Yeah.
So he'd be 6'4", 6'5", tall bloke, and 31. So he's a lock for business, right? Then you got guys who are like 19, 20 who are at the same height, but they might actually miss out because there's a 30-year-old who's only 6 foot, but because he's 30, he gets business. So it's sort of a combination of height and age. But I think Captain always gets business.
That is insane.
Over the years, I can't remember Bunga not getting business over the last 5 years. So
That is probably one of the best
to win.
perks as being a captain.
It's the only reason I took the job, mate.
For the Perth flight, mate, that is a big reward.
It's a big win.
Mate, that is a huge win. Mate, I wanted to ask you, though, on a more of a personal note, in your career, obviously, you've been playing, it's almost 12 years. Is that correct? Or are you going on your 12th year?
Going into my 12th, yeah.
Going into your 12th year. How have you dealt with some of the lows? Like everyone has good times in life. Everyone has bad times. We all have like things that make us sad, make us great, make us everything in between. How have you dealt with the lows throughout the last?
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like I look at my career and to have been a premiership player, I reckon over the last 5 years we've played in finals every season. So, you know, on the surface that looks like a really successful 5 years, but there've been some shit times. Like we've had some times where we might have lost 2 or 3 in a row, and I guess it comes with being a good team in general. Like we're not used to losing too much, so when you do, you just want to bury your head in the sand and get away from it all. But yeah, like to play, my biggest advice to 18-year-olds when they get to the club is if you want a long career at the footy club, like you want to play at least 10 years on the list, there's going to be bad times. So find a way to build resilience. Find a get out from footy that when you are pushing shit uphill, you can actually go and do it and you don't think about footy. For me, like my attitude towards the tough times have always been the good that's going to come eventually. So I've always, I don't know whether, I think I'm a bit naive because I've found that in the tough times, I've always just said to myself, it's all right. Like I might have played a bad game and I say to myself, it's okay. You'll dominate next week. Or like we might lose a few in a row and I might say to myself, it's okay. We're still a chance to win the flag at the end of the year. So I guess the potential positives get me through. And everyone's got their own way of dealing with things.
You're an awfully positive guy, mate, and I admire that because I like to think that I'm pretty positive too. But mate, you're an awfully very positive guy, and I think that's it's a great quality to have around, especially teammates who might struggle.
I think the good times in footy are always potentially there until you finish. So there's no use giving up on it or not thinking about it, you know. So when times get tough, you just got to think about what you could potentially be going through. Like we missed finals we won the Wooden Spoon in 2010. So that's when you finish on the bottom of the ladder, right? We won 5 games for the year. And then 12 months later, we played off in a preliminary final, which is the game to get you through to a grand final. So I learnt pretty early on in my career, that was my second year. I learnt pretty early on that in our game, things can change so quickly. I guess over the years after that, whenever tough times came about, I could always look back on that and go, well, you know what, this could change really quick. So don't drop your bottom lip. Just keep chugging on.
Yeah, and it's like it's a perfect example of having a growth mindset. I mean, when you're in a really shit time, though, you don't it depends on how bad and severe that rabbit hole feels to each person individually, but sometimes it can feel like it doesn't end. And whether it's sports, whether it's work, whether it's a relationship breakdown, whether it's something bigger or different, sometimes it doesn't feel like there is any light at the end of the tunnel. But I think it's very important to know that no matter how long something bad happens for or how bad it may seem right this present moment, that times definitely do always change and they do shift. And it's about holding on, isn't it? And about being patient and trying to see and change the perspectives in everything that you're looking at as best as you possibly can.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, 100%. In our game, like I've seen over the years, like the tough times, I can see why guys, go through and get to a stage where they are genuinely going through mental illness or depression. I've been so fortunate not to have gone through any of that. But I appreciate that the pressures that come with our game and the scrutiny we come under and just the roller coaster of emotions, I can see how it grabs a hold of some guys, unfortunately. And I touched on it before, but some of the best players over the last couple of years have been brave enough and and good enough for the wider community to speak up and talk about their battles. But yeah, you can get pretty low in our game. And again, I'm so fortunate that I've been part of a team that's just won a lot of games over the years, and so we haven't had to go through losing games on end and people at the footy club losing their shit and people losing jobs.
Losing jobs, security and all that stuff that comes with it.
Yeah, man. There'd be a lot of mental health issues. Mental health issues are the biggest issue in our game at the moment, I think. Yeah, there's plenty of guys that speak up, but as you know, there'd be plenty of guys who aren't saying a thing.
Definitely,
unfortunately.
And there'd be a lot more people that aren't speaking up, unfortunately.
Yeah, which sucks, man. People should be able to have someone they talk to. It's just not fair.
Absolutely, man. And I think you've said it perfectly as a captain of West Coast Eagles. If someone opened up to you and said, they were struggling, or if they weren't doing well, you certainly wouldn't sit there and judge them and say, what do you mean, harden the fuck up? Or why don't you just get over it and get along with it? You're playing for the West Coast Eagles. You've got a great life. They're some of the worst things that anyone would say to someone that might be struggling. So what are some things that you'd say to someone, or what's some advice that you'd give to someone if they were struggling and they said, Luke, can I have a chat to you? I need to pull you aside at training. Obviously, you've created a safe space for someone to open up to you, which is an amazing win straight up. But then you're listening, obviously. What's some advice you could probably give someone? Or what would you give someone if they said that they were struggling or if they're having a really hard time?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, a lot of the time the signs aren't there. A lot of the time there are. You can tell if someone's not right. But for a lot of guys, they hide it really well. And I think when guys come to you and have things to guys will come to you with things to complain about, and that's the footy side of things, where there's things that they're not happy with in the football world, and you can be as open and honest and as brutal as you want with them in that regard. But when it becomes personal and when it's bogging their life down, like if they've got an issue with footy things and they're hating something about footy, but then they can leave the footy club and be the happiest person ever, then it's fine. You know what I mean? But it's when they leave the footy club and they can't turn that corner and they can't get home and get away from footy and cheer up, that's when I think that's when the issues start to creep in. So somehow being able to figure that out and find a way to speak to people and ask if, when you get home, are you okay, or are you still really bogged down and just wanting to bury your head in the sand? Because there'd be so many guys who get home and just can't switch off and just go through a whole whirlwind of emotions. And it's just not healthy. And I think the mindfulness stuff over the last few years that we've put into practice is really important for that, because it not only does it teach you to be, grateful for what you have, but you find a way to be able to switch off and not worry too much about the external pressures that come with our game, which I think a lot of the time is the reason behind guys actually suffering mental issues.
Yeah, very well said, mate. Appreciate you sharing that. It's very well said.
No, that's right. No, easy, man.
And I don't want to go too much further into these types of areas, but as a young kid growing up playing sport like you were, and you were avid to play AFL, and you had your sights set on achieving the top and working your way there, not even thinking about a premiership, but that was obviously the pinnacle. What would you say to someone right now if they're 16, 17, 18, or whoever might be listening that's working their asses off, whether it's to be a professional athlete, whether it's to play AFL, soccer, rugby, whether it's for a job? What do you say to them if they're not making any progress or they feel like they're not succeeding? What's some advice you'd probably say to someone that might be struggling with that bit of self-doubt and, lack of, security and within themselves?
I've always hated hearing people say, just have fun, because it's hard to have fun if you want to achieve certain things and you're not. Like the reality is, if you want to be the best player on the team and you want to get drafted to an AFL club, and that's not happening, it's hard to just put that aside and have fun. It's so much easier said than done. I think understanding that, and there's enough evidence now and enough stories over the years of guys who might not work out for them at 17, 18, 19, but we've seen so many guys come into the competition now that are 21, 22, 23, who have been picked up from local leagues around the country, who I dare say they would have sworn 100% that their dream of playing AFL footy is over.
Wow.
They come in and are stars of the competition. Like we've got to do this year. You probably don't know him, Tim Kelly. I reckon he got drafted at 23 to Geelong.
That's pretty late. 23 is pretty late.
Late, man. Like,
wow.
I reckon 97, 98% of the draft pool each year when we have the AFL draft are all 18-year-olds, maybe 19. So Tim Kelly, Indigenous bloke from WA, got drafted. He was a good waffle player. Got drafted to Geelong over in Melbourne, went over for 2 years and dominated, like top 5 in the Brownlow last year, which is the league best and fairest.
So it's like the Dally M in rugby league. For those people who don't know. Yeah.
He's a jet, man. And anyway, we got him back. He wanted to come home. He's got 3 kids and a fiance, so he wanted to come home and be around family. So we were lucky enough to get him to our club this year. And here's a great story. And then there's Marlon Pickett. I don't know if you've heard of Marlon Pickett last year. Also a mature age recruit to Richmond. The AFL have brought in this new mid-season draft, I think. And so they've picked him up halfway through the year. And this is a guy from WA as well. He'd been in prison before. He's got 4 or 5 kids. And he debuted. His first AFL game was grand final day last year.
You're kidding.
And he chopped up, man. Chopped up. Had 20-something possessions.
That is insane. I love that.
Like, cult hero, man. Cult hero now
amazing.
for a lot of Richmond fans.
I love to hear stories like that, man. They're amazing.
I played with a guy, Matt Prittis, who didn't get drafted till he was 22. No, he got rookied. So he didn't even get put on the actual playing list. He was just one of our rookies and ended up playing 200 games, won a Brownlow. Man, they're like, and if you're a 17, 18-year-old kid and it's not happened for you, it's easy to look at these guys and think, yeah, but that's not me. You know, like, of course you're going to tell me that not to give up on my dreams and it's all cliched, but literally, man, like there's so much evidence to suggest that until you're 25, 26, like it's fair possibility you can still make it into the AFL or whatever you're doing, you know?
Yeah, whether that be a different type of career, whether it's AFL, or any sort of sport or
you know what I'm saying about you know what I'm saying about how I said I hate when people just say just have fun. You know what I mean about because like
you can't, mate. Yeah, just you go, and then I want to add my little 2 cents in after it.
It's easy to say. It's so easy to say and it's easy for me to say to kids because I've played 200 games of AFL and I've been lucky enough to win a premiership. So it's easy for me to say, just have fun because I've enjoyed my ride. Like I have fun every week because we're a good team. We play well most weeks. But for Joe Blow down the road, who's probably not the best 16-year-old in his team, he wants to play AFL. If he's not enjoying what he's doing, it's hard to. Or if he's not looking like he's going to achieve what he wants to achieve, it's hard to have fun, isn't it? Like
absolutely, because you put in so much pressure on yourself. Yeah, and you want to be good, you want to be the best, you want to work, towards something great. And if you're just having fun, it's almost like you can't have one without the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally.
So
mate.
anyway,
What's your before we wrap up the show, mate? And again, I want to say thank you very much for coming onto the show. You're listening to It Ain't Weak to Speak. Today, I'm joined by the great man himself, Luke Shuey, captain of the West Coast Eagles 2020. Mate, a couple of quick questions. How many seasons, how many more years do you have left on your contract? Because you've played it, you're going into 12.
Going into 12. So on my contract, I have, 3 more. So this year, until the end of 2022. So I'll be 32 by then.
How good's that? That's unreal.
Yeah.
And do they lock in for captaincy for when you get given, or is it just for this year? They can't guarantee.
No, so just this year. Okay. So we vote every year.
Yeah.
We have a player vote every season, but fortunate enough to have 3 more years at least.
That's so good, man.
And then hopefully, we'll see how the body's going and where the mind's at mentally. But I'd love to squeeze another 1 or 2 out after that. But greedy.
What's no, mate, I know. What's the family think of this? They must be loving it.
Oh, they love it. Yeah, my wife, great support for me. Loves the footy. Great group of girls at the footy club, man. Like the partners and the wives of the boys, they're a really good group. And I always dreamed of being able to have my own kid around the footy club after a game, wearing his West Coast shirt with Daddy on the back. So to be able to do that now, and hopefully a few more kids over the next few years, that's the best thing, man. So cool.
I love that you're living out your dreams, man, and these things all happen for a reason. So I'm very grateful for you doing that.
I've just had a look at the my little window at the top right corner, and I'm actually sitting here in the same pose as MJ. But that's not deliberate, man.
You meant that, didn't you, mate? You meant that.
What a cockhead.
Mate, I'm going to ask you one more question before we wrap up the show, because I want to ask this to most guests. What's your definition of "it ain't weak to speak"?
Anyone that passes judgment on people who want to speak up about mental health or any issues don't deserve to have a voice, really. Like, everyone should have a safe place, man.
You heard that, guys. You heard that very, very clearly. Lukey, mate, thanks very much for sharing that with us. Where can people find you after the show?
Well, I'm on Instagram.
You're not going to be too hard to find, obviously, but where can people find you?
I'm on the gram, heavily flooded by photos of my son and wife. Man, we've obviously been lucky enough to play footy for West Coast, so always floating around the club. Open training sessions. If you're a football fan, get down and watch us. But always here, man.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Well, on behalf of myself and everybody at Livin and all of our listeners, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to dial in and have a chat with me and have a chat with all of us and share a little
Thanks
bit
for having me, bro.
Your life and, where to now. But, mate, I definitely wish you all the best for 2020. I know you were doing an amazing job as captain, no doubt about that. Hopefully get another premiership under your belt, mate. Imagine how good that would be as a captain.
That'd be unreal, man.
That's the next goal, isn't it?
Well, yeah, not as captain, just to win another one, I guess. I'll be lucky enough to be in the position as captain, but to win another one would be unreal. So we'll see how we go. But thanks for having me on, man. Thanks for getting in touch. It's good to speak to you again.
Likewise, man. Thank you. Look after yourself. Look after your family. Have fun.
Did I see you back on Neighbours the other week?
Mate, you did. You saw me back on Neighbours. I'll be on and off for the next 6 weeks, man. It was a good experience.
That's wicked. Mate, I reckon I watched Neighbours from like 5 years old onwards. Every night, 6:30 on Channel 10.
Mate, Toadie's still on there. Sue and Carl, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Mate, it's always a good experience. And mate, it's good to connect, and I do very much appreciate your time, mate. I really do. Thanks for being so open to coming on here and sharing your wisdoms with us, and much love for the next 12 months and all the best on the field, mate.
My pleasure, brother. Good to speak to you.
Too, man. Take care, huh?
Thank you. See you, mate.
See you, bro.